Hi there, welcome back. This is Casey, and in this video I'm going to be covering a couple of topics, and right away I wanted to make a mention of the quality of this photograph and how it was taken. So this was taken, and you can see there's a lot of definition, a lot of clarity. It's a very close-up photo without losing the focus that you often will when you try and get this close up with a regular camera or phone. So this person used a macro lens on her cell phone, and I believe that this was taken in a darker room with a light shining from the side, which is how I recommend you at least start out, by getting into a darker room and using a flashlight or a pen light to light your eye up rather than the flash from the camera. Now, that said, try a lot of different options. While you're taking the photos, you might as well snap, a number of shots. So you can use the flash, you can use the light, you can get close up with the macro lens, and then I really also like to see more of a distant perspective, so I don't miss out on the overall landscape of the iris. And you could compare that to how a mouse would look at an eye as to how an eagle would look at an eye. So if you are sending photos in for me to do a reading, please take a couple of different perspectives, and then I can sort through those photos and figure out, I like to look at the different features. I will look at, finding different lacunas and different crypts and the fibers and all of that, and then match them up to the other photos I have, just to, really dig deeper into the health of that person. So, yeah, and even if you're taking photos for your own analysis to read your own eyes, same thinking would apply to that. All right, and then because this is such a great close-up photo, it's pretty fascinating, right? I think it is. So you can see the pupillary margin, and then you can see the pupil, the depth of the pupil, and just the texture. You can see the autonomic nerve wreath or the bowel wall in great detail. And then, of course, we have these little markings like the crypts and radii solaris and lacuna that you can also see very well. Now, so this is a true brown iris, and we can see from this photo that there is a velvety texture. So when you're looking at different iris constitutions, the true blue iris will have the trabecula radiating out from the pupil to the periphery of the iris, and you will be able to see the iris fibers, whether they are very closely woven, whether they are very straight, whether they have a lot of openings or not. You will still be able to see those fibers laid out in that fashion. In a true brown iris, you see more of a velvet texture. And typically when you're looking at constitutions, the true brown iris does have a strong constitution. Okay, so a couple of things. As you can see over here on the right, I'm going to speak to anxiety. And before that, I wanted to just briefly address, and I will do as another separate video on this topic, but I wanted to briefly bring up the topic of how food affects your frequency and how that might look in your life. So we know that a high fruit, raw, vegan lifestyle, we know that food has a lot more life in it, right? Anybody could see that. And actually fruit is the highest form of a frequency that you can put in your body. So it comes from the tree or from the bush, and it flowers, and then the after the flower, it produces the fruit. So it is the actual fruit of that being, and it will fall from the tree or it will fall off the bush for us to eat. And it has been measured in terms of frequency, and it does in fact have the highest frequency. So just below fruit would be the raw vegetables, and then below that would be cooked vegetables, and then you just go down and down, down from there. So if you're used to eating even a cooked vegan diet, you know, if you're eating rice and beans and, you know, whatever, if you're eating dairy, if you're having meat, generally your body is accustomed to you putting a lower frequency into it. And so that's what's going to be reflected in your life. That's what's going to be reflected in your body. You might feel strong, you might feel clear, but you're at a lower vibration. And by lower vibration, I don't mean this in a negative way. It's just more of like a slower frequency. So what can happen when you just transition, whether gradually and often it might surprise you if you just went right from a, you know, normal frequency diet to a high vibration diet, is that you may experience symptoms of elevated consciousness in the form of any of the clairs. So we have claircognizance, clairvoyance, clairaudience, and then we have just that basic concept of synchronicity. So your life can be, your whole day can be this flow of synchronicity, to where that starts to feel more normal to you. You can be experiencing lucid dreaming or astral projection. And if you are, you know, if you've had experiences with these things in the past, great, you're psyched, right? Your powers are coming online. Your superpowers are being activated. If you haven't had these experiences in the past and they just come out of the blue, which does happen to a lot of people, it can be so overwhelming. And it can even feel like you are losing it. So I just wanted to put that out there for anyone who is experiencing that, whether you're seeking to refine your vibration and your aura and to be experiencing these higher dimensions and timelines, or whether it just happens to you and you're not sure what to do about it. It's a thing. It happens. And so how do you deal with it? It's sort of similar, I suppose, to physical symptoms of detoxification. So if something becomes too uncomfortable, then you just bring it down a notch. And you can start by, if you're on all fruit or you're juicing, you can eat like a little bit of avocado. That usually is really grounding for me. If the avocado doesn't work, or you can have like a nice big salad with veggie fruits, lots of greens, and you know, maybe some avocado in the salad, peppers, tomatoes, and you're still eating all fruit, but these are not, you know, quite as zingy as the fruit juices and just the straight fruit diet. So you can try that, and if that doesn't work, you can go to, again, similar to the physical detox symptoms. If it's just too much, you can bake yourself a sweet potato, and that will generally bring things back into a normal range. And then the other thing is, and you can go from there. If the sweet potato doesn't work, you know, try some steamed vegetables. And you're still eating a high frequency, healthy diet. It's just not at that extreme. So the other thing is, this is when the journey begins, in my opinion. So it's like, you know, you reach out and you open up to support groups or friends and family, or, you know, sometimes YouTube channels that you're super drawn to, that you resonate with, that can provide you some level of, you know, education, comfort, resonance, that will help you ground these energies. And Speaking of grounding, you absolutely, I would highly recommend that if you're on a fruitarian, living a fruitarian lifestyle, or even like a raw vegan, meditation is going to be of primary importance. And along with meditation, and again, you can seek out different avenues. There's so many different styles, but essentially just sitting down and breathing evenly, inhaling evenly. You can count your breaths, and exhaling evenly. You can count your breaths. And you can go into all sorts of different styles of meditation. You can do guided meditation. There's a lot of really amazing resources out there. So the other thing that for me personally I absolutely rely on is nature. So getting outside, going for a walk. If you don't have access to a forest that you can be alone in, just make the most out of your neighborhood park. Really just walk slowly through nature and connect with the trees and the animals and the earth. And that will help ground out these super high frequencies that you're bringing into your body. So when you're looking at fruit, it depends on the person, but a lot of people are actually resonating below the frequency of fruit. So it can be a really big adjustment for a lot of people. So you just want to be keeping that in mind. What level of frequency are you at, and then what level of frequency are you bringing into your body? Okay, and yeah, I'm gonna go way more into this topic and talk a little bit more in detail of the dreaming and the clairs and all that at some point, because that is for me that's quite relevant in the overall big picture of healing your body. So let's talk about anxiety. So I've done a couple of videos. If you're interested, if you have anxiety, if you know anybody that has anxiety, you can watch. I've done like 2 different videos on how to recognize anxiety, at least within the iris. And there's several different things that you're looking at within the iris, and you can check those videos out. But essentially, in a nutshell, you're looking at the health of the gut, the solar plexus, and the vagus nerve. And you're looking at the brain zones, which we're going to be talking about today, and just whether or not there is congestion and inflammation up in the head and brain area. And then ultimately, you're really looking at the adrenal gland. So in this area right in here on this iris, we would see the adrenal gland. And then I'm going to bring up a couple of different tools today in this video that can help you to ease the symptoms of anxiety. So with anxiety, you can see over here, how do you heal it? So that's one thing. Healing it is one thing, and that can take a long time. It can take years. But how do you address it in order to make it more manageable in your life? That's another thing. So for anxiety, I absolutely recommend. There are other things that I think that people really like go to this will make me feel better, so I'm not going to heal it type of a thing, treating the symptoms and not the cause. And that can be problematic, but in this case, absolutely be treating your symptoms with herbs, okay? And again, meditation and going into the forest. Just like with dealing with your clairs and your psychic abilities. So healing it is, we're looking at the brain and the nerves. So this whole entire 11-to-1 section up in the head and brain area. We're looking at the autonomic nerve wreath. If there's a lot of tension or stress, or if it's dark. So we're looking, the autonomic nervous system. We're looking at, this person does not have nerve rings that I can see, but in the other videos we talked about nerve rings quite a lot, as they are related to the adrenal glands. And then the digestive system, the gut, the relationship that the solar plexus and the vagus nerve have with the brain and the stomach, and that response that can trigger anxiety. So you are looking at cooling and calming the head and brain area, and fruit is the most effective. Also, leafy greens are excellent at cooling down the brain. And I'm just going to be super brief with this because I either already have, or I will, or it is covered on my website, which you are welcome to visit. So I want to get to some of the herbal remedies today in this video. So cooling and calming the brain, healing the adrenal glands, and so all of this is going to involve getting your kidneys filtering, getting all of the systems, all of the channels of elimination up and running. Most importantly, I mean, that could be left to debate, but very importantly, the kidney and adrenal area. So getting your kidneys filtering, getting your gut cleaned out, getting the functions of the digestive system optimally functioning, and also just addressing all of the other avenues of elimination, so the lungs and the skin. So of primary importance in regard to anxiety, cooling the body down, easing inflammation, looking at getting the kidneys filtering, making sure the digestive system is functioning as a system of elimination. And then while you're working on all of these things, you can be using herbs. So I want to talk about a couple of different options that you have for herbal remedies. And then just before I do that, though, I want to point out in this iris, so we do have some stress in the autonomic nerve wreath or the bowel wall, and especially there is some emphasis. You can see the bowel wall drops in this area, in the transverse colon area, and then you can see these dark markings, whether you would call them crypts or radii solaris. They're coming from the pupil, so technically they would be radii solaris, but this one is very dark and rather prominent, and this would be in the pituitary, and this would be the pineal, and then this would be the pituitary. So it's interesting that these two centers are coming up for this person. They look like they are of importance for this person, and that they are related to the psychic centers, the crown chakra and the third eye chakra. So anyway, so we have the autonomic nerve wreath or bowel wall here, some stress in that area, and we also have some minor level of stress. So this would be the 6 o'clock line, and then this would be approximately, you can see the shading, you can just sort of, you can see it from the chart, but you can also intuit that this is the area of the kidney, the right kidney, and that this specifically would be the right adrenal gland. Okay, so we already have some stress in that kidney and especially the adrenal gland. And then what I wanted to highlight today in terms of seeing anxiety from the perspective of iridology is that we also have this very important inherent mental brain zone. And so for this person, and it's diagonal from the adrenal gland, and that would be in this area right in here. So this is coming up. You can see the darkness in that area, and you can see also that it's originating from the gut. So again, healing the digestive system, the stomach and bowels. So the inherent mental brain zone is also known as the anxiety zone, And as said by Bernard Jensen, this area involves the midbrain, emotional, and limbic systems of the cerebrum, as well as memory association areas of the cortex. Emotions experienced through the limbic system, the emotional brain, affect the thyroid gland, and low-level emotional expressions can harm the sensitive gland. So this brain zone is opposite the adrenal gland, as I mentioned, and can be seen in mental and emotional anxiety and conflict patterns. And some of the positive aspects of this brain zone would be courage, confidence, optimism, and an independence of spirit, success, and harmony in life. And then when this center is being activated or is weakened, as we can see in this iris, you can have the lower level expressions, which would be the opposite. So you can have antisocial, confusion, aversion, grief, doubt, sadness, dependency, uneasiness, and so on and so forth. So we do have this activated in this iris, and so along with the other signs that I just mentioned, and again, please watch those 2 videos if this is a topic of importance for you. That will round out the signs that you'll see in an iris that is reflected in a person that is experiencing anxiety. So with the herbs, so let me back up. So an excellent protocol, an overall protocol for anxiety is to be on the high fruits, greens, and then raw vegetables and even cooked vegetables as needed. And there's been a lot of studies, and I do have this on my anxiety page on my site, there's a number of things that can actually cause anxiety that you can put in your body. So, and I've experienced this myself. You can think that alcohol is going to calm it down, and it might. Like, if you have some alcohol, it might make you feel more relaxed, but it's usually going to have a kickback reaction where you feel anxiety as the alcohol leaves your system. And plus, it's just a lower frequency and it hits your liver and not great for your kidneys and all that, your brain cells, all that. So alcohol, and no judgment, seriously, but it's just a fact that it does cause anxiety. And then also smoking can trigger anxiety. Sugar, I've felt this before. I've felt sensations of like putting something in my body. I can feel it hit my liver, and then I can feel how my adrenal glands and my kidneys are in relationship with my liver, and how that just like instantly triggers anxiety. So sugar has done that to me before. Weed has done that to me before. So if you're smoking marijuana, again, no judgment, but you might get to a point and it's just really not smoking anything. So, is very extremely acidic. But even just the THC itself, whether you're having edibles or smoking, can eventually cause anxiety. What else? Anything that's super acidic, if you think of the emotion of anxiety and stress, that it's an acidic emotion. And so when you eat an acidic meal, or even if you're used to the high vibration meal and you eat something that's just below that, that can even trigger anxiety. So you want to keep your diet really clean. Oh, caffeine. Yeah, you can't do that if you have anxiety. And you may or may not get to the point where your anxiety is acute or subacute or chronic and caffeine affects you immediately. Again, I've experienced that myself, where it's triggered it almost instantly. So that's kind of the outline of the diet. You just avoid all the stuff. You avoid the triggers. You keep your diet super alkaline, and live and loving. And while you're doing that, you can use herbs. So there's two basic categories. One are the adaptogenic herbs, and then the other would be the nervine herbs. So with the herbs, you could put the herbal remedies into mainly one category in terms of herbal actions, and that would be the nervine category. And then within that category, we have calming, sedative, even adaptogenic herbs would be in that category of nervines. So, and I have a small list here, but there are hundreds of plants, and so it would be part of your own journey to figure out what you resonate with, and also what level of frequency works best for your body. So we did talk about that at the beginning of the video, but if you're really, really sensitive, and as a lot of us are, you may find that the subtle properties of flower essences, or even just being in nature with these plants within their presence, will give you an even more effective relief than taking the actual plant. So while I'm on that, before I forget, I just want to say that, so there's these levels of frequency within botanical medicine, and it ranges from being in the presence of a plant to thinking about a plant. I've actually had an experience with valerian where I was having a hard time falling asleep, and I all of a sudden got this image of valerian in my mind. And I have had lucid dreams actually about valerian. But anyway, I got this image in my mind, and it was like the being of that plant was with me. And then, next thing I knew, I was sound asleep. So it can range in levels of frequency, and I would say that that would probably be the top, having a dream or thinking about a plant and bringing that presence into your energy field. The next level would probably be flower essences, or being in nature would be somewhere in there. And flower essences work absolutely completely on a vibrational level. They do not have the chemical constituents of the plant within them. So the way they're made is literally you soak the flowers in water from anywhere to 4 to 6 hours. You can do it in the moonlight, in the sunlight, depends on what your overall goals are for that plant. And then it's extremely diluted, so it's more of a homeopathic remedy. And then you actually, when you're making the flower essences, you actually dilute that even more. So they are of a very high frequency, and they are very effective for people who are operating within that range of frequency. So one of the most common flower essence formulas for anxiety is Rescue Remedy, and I usually keep that on hand for myself or others. And again, sometimes I feel like just having it with me helps. And then there's several, there's hundreds really of flower essences. And with flower essences, while I'm on this, one of my favorite companies, I believe it's like Tree Frog Farm, they produce their flower essences by setting the water next to the flower, and that's how the energy of the plant is imparted into the water. And then of course they add some, usually brandy would be, and it's just a little bit to preserve that water, that flower essence. And then another one, and you can see on the left, I have a picture of California poppy with chicory, and they were just growing right next to each other. I thought that was really sweet. And chicory actually is a flower that I've used as a flower essence on and off in different stages of my life, and have found it to be quite comforting. And the way that I like to use flower essences is to, if I see a flower that I'm drawn to, I'll just pick it and put it in my water bottle. And then that energy is, distributed all throughout the water. And then I just drink that water. Usually it lasts like a day or two. And then I, put it back in the forest or whatever. So yeah, we have flower essences, we have being in nature, we have lucid dreams of plants, and then we have the more traditional herbal remedies that you can take in tincture or capsule or tea form. All right, so I'm just gonna briefly go through these plants, and like I said, there are many plants and remedies that you can use for anxiety. And I will say that the nervine category, so it can be split into three different actions, three different categories by action. And that would be the tonic nervines, and those are nervines that strengthen and nourish the whole nervous system. Adaptogens pretty much do fit into this category, but so do herbs like milky oats, bacopa, and vervain also fit into that category. Tonic nervines can be a great resource, either used on their own or as a part of a formula. And then there are, tonic meaning that it tones the nervous system. And then there are relaxant nervines, and this would be the category that would be most widely used to treat or address anxiety. And this relaxant category of nervines are calming, and this can range from a mild influence to a strong one depending on the herb or the amount used. So nervines with a strong calming action are sometimes called sedative nervines, and then also hypnotics are another division of relaxant nervines that are known for supporting healthy sleep. And they can also vary from mild to quite potent. And then you have the category of nervines that I would advise you abstain from if you are experiencing anxiety. And when I say anxiety, I mean the whole range. So we have social anxiety, we have anxiety related to insomnia, we have derealization, disassociation, depersonalization, we have extreme shyness even is an emotion that can come from the adrenal glands. It's also within that range. So, and a lot of times with children, you'll notice that certain behaviors, like if they're exhibiting certain behaviors that might be thought of as, not being a good child, actually a lot of times that is, in my opinion, stemming from some level of anxiety. So, so it comes in all shapes and sizes. And again, you can find certain plants and remedies that will address your specific symptoms and will resonate with your specific energy field. Okay, and your body. So St. John's wort I've done a video on St. John's wort. It's actually one of my very favorite plants. It's one that I do make a point of keeping on hand, and it is a pretty safe plant. There are a few contraindications in terms of if you are on medication for long-term medication, especially for depression, but anything that you're taking long-term, St. John's wort can affect the level of effectiveness of that medication. So if you are taking a prescription, you may want to check with your healthcare practitioner and just make sure that the St. John's wort won't have an like a negating or an increasing effect on that plant that you're taking, or that medication that you're taking. And St. John's wort, meaning taken from the Greek over the specter. So it is mainly used as an antidepressant and mood elevator, and I think of it as like the microcosmic sun. So it absolutely resembles tiny little sunshines, a bunch of tiny little yellow flowers. And it does also reflect the energy of the solar plexus or Manipura chakra. And so we talked about, mostly in the other two videos, how on anxiety, how the solar plexus and the nerves contained therein can trigger anxiety, and how the health of your gut is very closely related to anxiety. So this is a plant that is an exact match energetically and physically, which is, you can look at most plants and foods and you can kind of ascertain their value by the way that they are, the color that they are, the shape that they are, all of the features that make up this physical structure come from an energetic signature. So yeah, love St. John's wort, and I personally tincture it fresh, but you can usually, when you buy it in the store, it will be tinctured from the dried plant, or you can get it in capsule form. Okay, and then valerian, like I mentioned, I have seen the spirit of this plant in a dream, and she is quite lovely. And valerian is a strong nervine and non-narcotic sedative. Strengthens the brain and nervous tissues. It also helps to regulate heart palpitations, helps in hyperactivity, reduces high blood pressure from stress and tension, and as well as chamomile, it is calming to the stomach, so it helps with gas and indigestion. And it's a pretty common plant. I've harvested valerian on the West Coast for, and also in the Southwest for years and years. So you can most likely find it in your area. It's also pretty affordable if you purchase it. And then skullcap. So skullcap, as I was saying, with the energetic signature, the flower of skullcap is sort of this purpley blue, and it looks like a skull. So it is telling you that it is very effective for the head, the brain, and the nerves. It's been studied quite a lot, so they've done some research on skullcap showing that it positively impacts mood and reduces anxiety by stimulating gamma aminobutyric acid, also known as GABA, and that is a neurotransmitter that helps calm nerves. Some studies have suggested that American skullcap may also have neuroprotective properties, like I said, resembling the head, potentially safeguarding against diseases like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. And then California poppy, you can see here on the left, one of my very favorite flowers and plants to work with. So I have made a lot of tinctures out of California poppy. It is the state flower in California, so you're not really, supposed to pick it, but I guess if it grows on your property, or if you, I'll just leave it at that. But I have harvested a lot of California poppy when it's in abundance, and I like to use the flowers as well as the seed pods. The roots are also powerful, but I haven't dug the roots up and used those in any tinctures. So it's in the same family as the opium poppy and is sedative and analgesic and considered a hypnotic but not narcotic. And again, like skullcap, it has an affinity for the GABA receptors in the brain. All right, so ashwagandha. Now there are a few other adaptogens that I didn't include on this list, like holy basil and rhodiola. Those are both pretty common, along with ashwagandha. And ashwagandha is an Ayurvedic herb, so its origin is in India. I have grown it before. It's a pretty easy plant to grow. But I don't believe that it's found in the wild in the United States. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it just comes from India mainly. There could be other areas of the world where it grows. So anyway, it is a nervine and adrenal tonic that eases anxiety, depression, and exhaustion. So I want to just make a note that adaptogenic herbs are just as they say, they adapt your body to stress. And for some people, that means that they will calm you down. For me, ashwagandha is an excellent anxiety reliever. It helps me sleep, and it's just gotten me through, certain times in life. It's really strong and effective for me in promoting relaxation. Now, for other people, it actually gives them energy. So adaptogens do have that quality where they could either affect you by stimulating the nerves or by calming the nerves. As well, a lot of these nervines, like valerian, there's like maybe 1 or 2 people in 100 that will have the opposite effect. So they'll get energized from valerian. It's not very common, but there are a few people out there that are affected in that way. So with the adaptogens, I would recommend that you start slow, and you can do some muscle testing and, just ask your intuition, but really you can also just take a little bit of ashwagandha and see how it affects you. Okay, and then lemon balm is, I've found it growing in the wild, but I think it's more of like an escaped garden plant. It just grows like crazy. And it is, I believe, in the mint family. It's got square, it's in the mint family. It has like the square stems, and it's super lemony and aromatic. You can make a tincture with it. You can dry it for tea. I think it's a little more effective when it's fresh. And then it is helpful for nervousness that affects the heart and digestion, eases sadness and depression, calms mania and hysteria, and enhances sleep. Okay, so next one would be chamomile, and this is a more gentle, common, chamomile tea is something that most people have on hand. And I have it on this list because I think it's important to include it, as it's a really great remedy for children, and it also addresses the stomach, the solar plexus. And again, you can think of the chamomile flower, and it is similar to the energy of the solar plexus or manipura chakra, and it's really effective with kids. So if you have anxiety that is connected to your digestion, this would be a really good one. Valerian also is good with that. And lemon balm also is good with that. Okay, so I didn't include one other thing, and I wanted to talk about it, and I'm just going to write the name of it down, and that is dragon bone. It's not an herb. It is what it sounds like. So if you're, primarily, I am vegan. I don't eat meat, but dragon bone was actually given to me by my acupuncturist several years ago, she gave me dragon bone mixed with bupleurum, and it felt like it really anchored my spirit, and it really relieved any kind of anxiety that I may have been experiencing at the time, especially in the evening. So dragon bone is known as long gu in traditional Chinese medicine, and it is actually the fossilized bones of prehistoric animals such as mastodon, hairy rhinoceros, Hyperion, deer, and oxen. And it is combined, usually it's best combined with other herbs, and most often, I'm going to write down bupleurum, it is combined, if you see a dragon bone formula, it will likely have bupleurum in it. And bupleurum is an herb that I mentioned in the video I did on the liver, because it is an herb that's used for the liver, and it can also be relaxing. So that shows you that, like what I was saying about when you eat stuff that hit your liver, you can get instant anxiety. So there is a relationship between your liver and your adrenal glands for sure. So also it can be combined with skullcap and licorice root. Dragon bone is utilized for its rich mineral content, which includes calcium, potassium, sodium, and trace elements. These minerals help support structural tissues such as teeth, bones, and promote an alkaline pH in the body. So that could be the reason why it is so sedating and calming, is that it contains calcium, which is extremely alkaline. And it also opens up the heart and liver meridians and stabilizes mood. It can be used as a mild sedative to reduce stress, anxiety, irritability, and acute anger, and can be helpful in cases of insomnia, tension, and manic behavior. So that's that. If you're drawn to dragon bone, I have a link on my website for the supplement that I use. The other thing I want to kind of just touch on real quick, I know I mentioned that eating an alkaline diet is crucial, especially when you're, right on that edge of being anxious and not being anxious. And it's funny because I was just thinking this morning, I was having some celery juice, and I was thinking, like, I think this stuff is just really calming to me. And then I was just reviewing these herbs for this video, and celery actually was listed as a plant that does calm the nerves. So I'm thinking that probably because of all the minerals in it. Also, it's just super alkaline. Okay, and so with these plants, I think I've mentioned this, but just in case I haven't, when you have something going on that is deep-seated, like anxiety is, it can take years to heal. And on your journey, you're going to have, if it's something that you've experienced before in your life, you may not be experiencing it presently, but once you go on your detox journey, it's something that can come up. It's one of the more common detox symptoms. So for me, it's one thing to hide a chronic imbalance by treating the symptoms, and I don't suggest that you do that. Like, you don't take the herbs and then just pretend that you don't have anxiety. So, but you do take the herbs with anxiety. You absolutely do rely on addressing the symptoms of anxiety, because when you don't address the symptoms of anxiety, it can get worse. It sort of self-perpetuates. And so I don't recommend this with all conditions, that you address the symptoms. But if you have a headache, then you're going to look at the root causes, but you might also take some willow herb. I do. And so there's nothing wrong with addressing symptoms, through herbs. You just have to keep in mind, stay focused, know you're on your path, and continue to live the lifestyle and detoxify and cleanse and rebuild your body while you're addressing it. Okay, I think that's it. I hope you enjoyed this. If you have any questions, feel free, and hope you're all well. And until next time, take care.